Hello everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 from 6 months ago. This week we're going to be looking back at the Hot Top 10 from August 24th, 2018, and I am recording this on February 21st, 2019, so that you know when this information was most relevant. This week's list is another list with a lot of books that have not held their value. They have come back considerably in most cases. But there are a couple books in here that I think are intriguing for being potentially slightly underrated keys. And then there is, at the top of this list, a grail. And a book that continues to climb. And so we'll get to there in just a minute. But first, let's start with the bottom of our list. And number 10 is a book that you can actually already see, is Batman Kings of Fear. This is number 1. This is the Sinkovich variant. And this cover was hot right out of the gate. It was going for $10 to $15 just 2 days after it released. But since then, this book has come back considerably. It is a really cool Batman cover. I really like it. That was why I grabbed it, because I did not read the Kings of Fear series. But I like this cover. I grabbed it. But now you can grab this you can grab this book for cover price plus shipping. So it has come back to basically what it was. And so if you got it for cover, you did good. If you bought into the hype train, then you're probably not really regretting it too much, because it was still only a $10 to $15 book. And here comes the cat, as I started talking and she thinks she needs to be in the middle. So let me get her out of the way. Come here, kitty. I know, you're a good cat. And we will move on to number 9 on the list. Number 9 on the list is another book that you can actually see, and this is Justice League 30. This is the first full appearance of Jessica Cruz. This is a book that I think potentially is a little bit of an underrated key. I don't know what necessarily caused it to spike back in the summer. Maybe people just decided that there might be potential, because there was rumors about a Green Lantern movie that might have more of the core than just like one Green Lantern. But anyway, back then it was doing $20 for that book for raw copies. Now it's back down to the $10 to $15 range. And you can typically get the 3 books that kind of make up the Jessica Cruz first appearance, which are Green Lantern 20, which is kind of a cameo, Justice League 30, which is considered her first appearance, and then Justice League 31, which is when she becomes Power Ring. You can get all 3 of those books in that $20 to $30 range, at least 2 of them, and sometimes even all 3 of them for that $20 to $30 range on eBay. 9/8 for this book are only going for, Go Collect has the fair market value on the 9/8 for that book at $55. But you can get them, I've seen they go for anywhere from $30 to $75 is what they've been going for lately. Again, I think this is a character in a book that has a little bit of potential. If they do some Green Lantern movies, I think they'll put a female Green Lantern in there. I think there's every chance this is the female Green Lantern they'll use. So just a book that's still pretty cheap, that has a little bit of a key value that I think might be a little bit underrated. At number 8, we have the first book that you won't see on my shelf, and that is Rune versus Venom, number 1. And this is another Donny Cates entry into our list. Venom came out with, I forget now, I think it was issue 5, where Venom had wings. Well, this is the first time in comics that Venom actually had wings. So people jumped on this as a spec book. I'm not sure why, because it's not continuity, but it was the first time he was seen with wings. So this book jumped up to $25 to $30 back in August. Now this book can be had from anywhere from $2 to $10. So basically cover price plus a little bit of shipping. 9/8 on this book. There's only 2 sales that I could find, and only like 27 of them on the census. And those 2 sales were for $132 for a 9/8 and $45 for a 9/8. So this is a book that really doesn't appear to have a whole lot of staying power or value It was kind of a fun thing that Donny Cates gave Venom some wings, and this was the first time that happened in the comics, but I don't think it's a book that really has any kind of actual key value. And the prices have come back to reflect that. At number 7 on our list, we have another book that I consider maybe slightly underrated, Century number 1. This is obviously the first appearance of Century. This has long been the cat is going crazy. This has long been a $20 to $25 book. But back in the summer, it jumped up to 50 plus. Since then, it has come back, I think, because there was a Century series that was going on then. There was a little bit of heat around the character. That series got canceled. It's come back now. It is a $15 to $30 book, so back in that $20 to $25 range. 9/8 though are still going for $250 to $350. But a 9/6 could be had for typically under $100. So if you're not a 9/8 person, you might like a 9. Can deal with having a 9/6. This might be a book to get in for under 100 on a 9/6. If they ever do anything with Century in the MCU, it would be a book that takes off. But overall, I just think it's a good character that has some potential. At number 6 on the list, we have a book we've seen already previously on this list. We saw it last week, and this is Star Wars: The Last Jedi number 4, the 1 in 25 Reese variant with Holdo. This is a book we talked about last week that has managed to sustain value. It had actually, at this point, has been on the list 3 different times last summer. This was the 3rd time that it appeared on the list, including last week. And then it was all the way up to, like last week when it appeared on the list, it was a $60 to $70 book. Well, in the week change, it was up to a $120 book. Since then, the book has come back a little bit from that. It's still going for that $75 to $100 range. And there's still no sales of slab copies on Go Collect or eBay that I could find. As we move into the top 5, we have another book that was on last week's list, The Rejected. And last week it was saying it was a $20 to $30 book. Then by this week, by the 8/24 week, it was up to a $50 plus book. It is now back down, as we talked about last week. Buy it nows are typically going for around $35. But if you can find an auction, there's usually not that many bidders, and they're going for under 20 typically on a auction. Next up on the list is Bloodborne number 1. This is based on a video game and a number 1 issue, and I really couldn't find any reason why it spiked back in the summer. I looked for some articles. CBSI didn't really say why they thought it was spiking. I guess it was just kind of a hot indie book with a tie-in to a video game. I'm not sure. But it was going for $25 to $30 back then. Now this book can be had for around $10, and the entire series of 1 through 4 can be had for that $25 to $30 range. So this is another book that had a little bit of heat in the summer and has come back. I don't know if the video game wasn't that good. I don't know much about this book, but I know that it has not managed to sustain any of that value. Next up on the list is Amazing Spider-Man number 10 from Volume 3, the 1 in 25 Del Auto variant. This is the first appearance of Spider-Punk. Not sure why Spider-Punk was spiking back in the summer. There was no rumors about them using him in the Spider-Verse movie, which they didn't. I guess they were getting ready to start that whole Spider-Geddon event. I think people thought he might play an important role in that. But other than him being one of those spider characters that people like, there wasn't much reason for the book to necessarily be spiking when it was doing so. Back then it was going for 40 plus. Now, this is another one of those books kind of like The Rejected. The buy it now prices are all in that $30 to $40 range, and books are selling for that. But typically if you find auctions are going for 15 to 20. So it's kind of one of those things. The buy now price doesn't necessarily represent the demand, but people are still sort of willing to pay it. So it's kind of got that split pricing going on. Not a lot of these out there because it is a fairly low, being a 1 in 25. There's not a ton of them out there, but they are out there. Number 2 on the list, we have Nameless number 1. And this is a book that was purely being driven by rumors and speculation. And none of those rumors and speculation, at least so far, have turned out to be true. The rumor was that James Gunn was making a mystery horror movie. He sent out a tweet or an Instagram post that had a symbol on it. Everybody took that symbol to mean he was talking about Nameless. And this book jumped up to a $25 to $30 book. Now this book can be had for less than $5. Literally, most of the sales are like $2 plus shipping, $1.99. This book is going for almost nothing at the moment because there's been no confirmation of this movie. And it doesn't appear like it's going to happen. There's only been one 9/8 sale of this book that I could find, and that was, the last 9/8 sale I could find for this book was clear back at the beginning of November, and it was for $70. So this is not a book that has managed to sustain any value when the rumors of the movie went away. So, finally on our list, at number 1, we have a book that is going to have value, will have staying power. It's the book that some people are referring to as the next Hulk 181. I don't know if it's going to quite do that. I'm not sure this character quite reaches Wolverine status, but it is Fantastic Four, number 48, the first appearance of the Silver Surfer. This is obviously a grail for basically everyone. There's not too many people that wouldn't consider the first appearance of the Silver Surfer a grail. It has really been jumping ever since it became obvious that the Fantastic Four were going to be coming into, that Marvel was getting the rights back for them, and that there might actually be a good Fantastic Four movie made, and that the Silver Surfer might actually be in some of those movies and might be used well. This is a book that they said basically was setting records at all grades back in the summer. Back then a 6.0 jumped from, on average, going for around 1150 to 1950 in 2 weeks. Since then, this grade, a 6.0, has settled in at around 1600 and is selling pretty steadily in that range. And as I looked at most of the grades, the book does appear to have stabilized since the summer. It made a lot of gains early last year, pretty much across all grades, but it seems to have, most of those levels have stabilized back since the summer. Although there were occasional sales that seemed to start trying to push it again. There was a recent sale of a 6.0. I said it had settled around 1600, but there was a recent sale of for 2150. But since then, it's went for 1600 again a couple of times. So there are occasional sales. There is a high demand for this book, and I think we all know why that is. This is a book that made the list, but it's a classic. It's a book that's going to have value throughout time. So once again, this list was dominated, though, by books that did not maintain their value. They were short-lived spikes related to whether it be movie rumors or a hot cover or whatever. There are 2 books, in addition to that Fantastic Four, that I feel like maybe are worth having, looking into and having some value long-term. I think this Justice League 30 is a book that maybe is a little bit underrated. I'm not saying it's going to be like a $100 book, but at a $10 to $15 book, that's probably not a bad going rate for the first appearance of a female Green Lantern, particularly if if DC ever gets their act together. I know they're using her in some of the cartoons now, and then $15 to $30 for a nice raw copy of Century Number 1 seems like another book that maybe would be a good time to get in on. But overall, like I said, these books have mostly come back to the pack, and most of them don't appear to have any kind of long-term value. So with that, I will say goodbye, and we will see you next time.